Okay, so after reading my fellow classmates' videos, I would like to say that our thoughts meshed well together and very well together, I would say. These chapters were very interesting to read, especially chapter 9, where it talks about the Brady effect, or the Brady Act, I should say. So, right here says the first clause of the Second Amendment, which bestows on every American the right to bear arms, also implies that the right should be well regulated. There can be no doubt that the threat to mortality with a weapon as powerful as a semi-automatic central fire rifle is much greater than the form of a small caliber pistol. Yet odds are that vastly more people will be killed by handguns in the United States than by AR-15s. For every death from a rifle like an AR-15, handguns cause 19 of those deaths. How we address these deaths requires a multi-pronged approach. Some aspects need to be focused on primarily preventing the Brady Act. Prevention. The Brady Act is a perfect example of this strategy. In this case of gun violence, background checks exist as a form of vector control, keeping guns the mechanism by which anger, hate, and suicidality are transmitted out of the hands of the wrong people, thereby preventing violent injuries and death. Background checks represent one way to cut down on the transmission of hostilities between two people or the inflicting of personal harm via a bullet. The Brady background check has prevented nearly 1.7 million transactions, a rejection rate of approximately 0.5% for gun sales or permits to prohibited buyers. By what if a buyer tries to skirt the background check process? If we were to extrapolate the number of rejected background checks onto the number of transactions that occur outside the official NICS background check system, we would find that there might already be over 400,000 guns floating around the country in the hands of people who should not have them. And I think that's when it goes straight into chapter 10. So it talks about Sakran in Baltimore. He was an associate professor of surgery at the Johns Hopkins Hospital. 25 years has passed since he was shot, and he had published more than a dozen articles on gun violence. One of his studies of gun violence won an award for its calculation of the cost of gun violence to America, $2.8 billion each year. His advocacy landed him on the board of the Brady Campaign to Prevent Gun Violence and the Brady Center, gun violence prevention organizations that have been renamed in honor of President Reagan's press secretary. Sakran had just finished speaking at the National Leadership Conventions for Doctors for America, an organization whose board I recently joined, when we sat in the back of a large hall to talk. In his talking about William Haddon, which he discussed the Haddon Matrix, which is a framework in the field for injury prevention. So essentially, in his landmark article, Haddon argued that injuries are a part of being human and have always been endemic to human society and are therefore who are therefore subject to the same epidemiological analogies public health providers use when they approach traditional diseases. Haddon interestingly erased the arbitrary line between acute injury and chronic disease by examining certain conditions from the perspective of the span of time.